He is a Canadian professional hockey superstar. He's played in the NHL and he is the captain of our Toronto Marlies. But his passion is sharing his mental health struggle and recovery in his brand new documentary. Hi, my name is Dicky. Welcome to My Kind Canadian this week. It's Rich Clune. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
So I got to ask, how did you get the nickname Dicky and who gave it to you?
Ooh, I I
Is that a
feel like,
story?
well, obviously my legal name is Richard, and I've never really looked into it, but somehow the name Richard is associated with Dick and Dicky, and um,
Oh,
so I would say that when I was younger, it was more of like a teasing thing.
right.
People would tease me, but I think it really caught on when the movie The Fighter came out and Christian Bale and
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg are in it, and it's the story of Mickey Ward, the boxer from Lowell, and Christian Bale plays his brother Dick Eklund, and his name's Dicky. And I think that that movie was obviously extremely successful and popular, and Christian Bale did an amazing job, and I think that put it into like pop culture or something at the time. And I feel like my
It's
teammates like took it and ran with it, and it was like
right.
moving
I
up.
would imagine that like you'd have to tread lightly when you call a guy your size Dicky. That's all. That's what I'm just thinking, right? But it's a great name. I love it. So when I
Sure.
was watching the, I do, but I don't think I could ever call you that. So I'll just let that be a guy thing. So when I was watching the documentary, there was such moments of raw honesty, especially when you were recounting your breaking point and the effect it had on you, obviously, physically, and then emotionally on your brother. The emotion, it was palpable. So I wonder, how does kindness, what role did kindness to yourself and kindness from others factor into your journey?
Well, I think that um, I'm very fortunate to come from a very loving household with my mom and dad. Their names are Amory and Tom, and my two brothers Ben and Matt. Um, I guess what in that regard, I would my mind jumps to kindness from others as
Mm.
opposed to directly myself when I start to think about some of the struggles that I've been through, and my journey through recovery. And I feel like the word that I associate that with is love.
Ah,
Sort of um, essentially, we're extremely close family growing up, and I would say that I would change none of what we've been through because we seem to have like, mined different depths of love for one another, and immediate acts of kindness that I can think of were my brother Matt, who really was my lifeline when I was going through struggles, and obviously my mom and dad too, and just having that sort of like unconditional love and the mentality of like we're gonna get through this together,
oh,
and we kind of don't know where it's gonna go or where it takes us, but we're in it for the long run. And I mean, I can go through thousands of acts of kindness on a daily basis that they showed me that's allowed me to, be here now, today. And I think that, my immediate family definitely exemplifies kindness and love and selflessness on a daily basis. And I owe them everything.
so they've modeled that to you, and now you are inspiring others by your kindness. I think that's a very natural progression. So another standout moment when I was watching it was one of the highest compliments someone can pay you by someone, Kyle Dubas, who probably doesn't throw out so many compliments lightly. And I'm going to read it to you because it was so beautiful, poignant. Rich legitimately looks for the players that are either at risk of the most harm or that need the most help, and then he invests himself into helping them. And so when you try to put a value on what that means to the organization, it's hard to do because I don't know that you can find anyone else quite like Rich that would be willing to do that. Wow. When you hear that, what do you think?
I mean, obviously, it's extremely high praise coming from from Kyle specifically, and I don't think that there's anything I can authentically say as a child. I never visualized or envisioned myself and my career playing out the way that it did. Um, in like the details, I always dreamed of being successful and climbing
Right.
the ranks, playing hockey. But my life took like a journey of its own, and really the things that he's referencing and stuff like that, it's like something else sort of like took over in my life, and it just seemed it just seems like the next right thing to do. And uh I think I got a deeper appreciation for what it means to be a teammate in sports. I think that when you're on the ice and you're in battle and you're essentially, competing with one another is one thing. um I was taught early, I went to a treatment center and I was taught that if you want to keep what you have, you have to give it away. And I
Wow.
would say that I would say there was just a lot of that I sort of directed into my hockey career. I've done some service work and volunteer work outside of hockey, but I think that it it just sort of bled out into my hockey career and surrounding my and my teammates surrounding me. So it's been a pretty, amazing, fortunate situation the last 7 years being here in Toronto and, working and playing for someone like Kyle. And there's a whole list of other guys, but it feels very nice to have someone say that about me.
You're very humble. You're very humble. You should be saying, screaming from the mountains, you did the work. And it's so lovely to be recognized, I'd imagine, because there was a lot of work that came behind all that. I mean, watching that documentary as a parent, I was like, ooh, I got to give his mother a hug. I got to find his mother because there was moments I thought, oh my God, I hope this goes well at the end, and which I knew. So, as a hockey mom of two kids that play hockey, and for all the hockey parents out there, how can we foster a new hockey culture? Because when I hear some of the stories, some of the shenanigans, it scares the shit out of me. What can we do? I'm like, what can we do better? How can we do better as parents? Like you're changing things around where there's a feeling without mental health, you can't play hockey. You have to have that first and foremost because the conditioning, all the talent in the world, if you don't have that in combination with mental health, it's a big miss, right? So, how can we do better to have a better culture? What can
well,
we do?
well, I think, give yourself some credit. I'm sure you're doing an amazing job. And, just I'm in awe of parents as I'm getting older and, knock on wood, one day have a family of my own. I don't have kids yet. Um, I get a deeper appreciation of what my parents went through,
Right.
financially, emotionally, all the time. It, I'm, I'm just reflecting on it now, and I'm in, I tip my hat to all the hockey parents, but I really can't give you like an answer that I would say works foolproof, but I would just say that the ability to like connect with your child beyond results
Ah,
and we I think that's something that, specifically here in Toronto, the hockey hotbed of Canada and the world, I feel like the end result and the result is what's sort of people get attached to. And I
right.
was and I was no different. From the time I was probably 11 to 12 years old, I started to look at hockey in a different light. Like when I was a kid, I loved it. It was fun. I played tons of different sports, um, in the city, but I really started to approach it with like a mentality of like, okay, I think I want to be a pro. And every decision I made from that moment on is like, it was an emotional roller coaster. It's like, you have a bad practice on a Tuesday in winter and you're in the seventh grade and that's it. It's over. Never happening. And the parents are
Mm.
screaming and there's
Yeah,
it's all the different, ways you can express that sort of like turmoil. Ultimately, it boils down to, all that stuff is all good because it's coming from a place of like love and support
Right.
and all that. But I would say the parents just need to like chill out and really at a very baseline level connect on how their kids are doing, um,
Emotionally.
emotionally, despite hockey, despite school, because to combine athletics and academics is extremely hard to do.
Right.
Um, and the pressures of becoming a teenager and like relationships and dating and confusion and
It's a
puberty.
perfect storm, right all at that age, isn't it?
I think one thing that I would say, that I could probably, you know, hang my hat on and authentically say that I believe in it is just, making the eye contact and on a daily basis or at least a weekly basis, having a meal with your child and sitting down and looking at one another and reading their body language and reading the different signs that maybe go beyond what they're saying with their mouths and how their posture
Right.
and habits and their sleeping habits and just really check in and just look at them and say, how are you doing? Like you matter to me and I care about
Oh,
you.
yeah.
And that's kind of it. I mean, we could sit here for 5 hours and I could tell you a million different things that.
But it's the small details, right? It starts at home with whoever is in your love circle, I think is what you're trying to say, that it has to be fostered from a place of comfort where they can come if they need to talk to someone, I guess, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm very well aware of the fact that I grew up in an extremely fortunate situation with, two parents that were together and loved me, and I'm very aware that not everybody grows up in that type of environment, and not everybody has the ability to have, a parent or a mentor or somebody, but I
Cheer
think
them on.
community, the adults in our community could that would be something I would say for them. Um,
And I think that's where you come in because you stepped up. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for using your experience to mentor young players and to support them and to cheer them on, and for diminishing the stigma of mental health, where people feel more comfortable asking for help and that they don't feel so alone. Your kindness is an inspiration, and this is where entertainment and charity meet.